March 8 carries a very different emotional tone from the previous day. If March 7 allowed space for imagination, inspiration, and emotional sensitivity, today brings the process of grounding those feelings in reality. Venus, the planet that reflects our relationships, values, and emotional connections, forms a conjunction with Saturn. Whenever Saturn becomes involved, the atmosphere naturally becomes more serious and reflective. Saturn represents structure, responsibility, time, and the lessons that come through maturity. When Venus meets Saturn, relationships tend to move out of idealization and into evaluation. This does not necessarily mean something negative. In fact, it often brings an important form of clarity. Feelings that once seemed romantic or exciting may now invite deeper questions. What does this connection actually require? Is it sustainable? What responsibilities come with it? You may notice a shift in emotional pacing today. Instead of reacting purely from attraction or impulse, people may become more thoughtful about their commitments. Conversations might turn toward practical matters within relationships, such as expectations, boundaries, or long-term direction. Saturn encourages realism. Sometimes this realism reveals stability. A connection that once felt uncertain may begin to show its strength when both people demonstrate patience and reliability. Other times, the same realism may reveal where a relationship has been sustained more by hope than by shared effort. Either way, the purpose is understanding. At the same time, Mercury continues its retrograde journey while forming a supportive connection with Jupiter. This adds a thoughtful layer to the day. The mind may revisit ideas or conversations from earlier in the week, but with a broader perspective. You might find yourself reflecting on recent experiences and asking what they mean in the long term. Instead of reacting emotionally, the mind becomes more interested in interpreting the lessons behind what has happened. This combination creates a very specific psychological atmosphere. The heart becomes more cautious, while the mind becomes more philosophical. You may feel both emotions at once, a desire to protect your emotional energy while also trying to understand the larger meaning of recent events. The invitation today is not to judge your relationships or your feelings too quickly. Instead, observe what becomes clearer when excitement slows down and responsibility enters the picture. Because when love meets reality, it reveals whether something is simply appealing in the moment or strong enough to grow over time.
Now let's move deeper into the psychology behind today's influence. When Venus meets Saturn, emotional experience tends to become more grounded in reality. Venus normally expresses connection through pleasure, affection, and the desire to feel valued by others. It represents what we enjoy, what attracts us, and how we experience closeness. Saturn introduces a very different dynamic. Saturn represents time, responsibility, boundaries, and maturity. It asks whether something can endure beyond the moment of attraction. When these two planets meet, relationships often pass through a kind of emotional reality check. Psychologically, this can show up as a shift in perception. A connection that once felt exciting may now invite questions about reliability, effort, and mutual responsibility. Instead of focusing only on how someone makes you feel, the mind begins to consider whether the relationship has the stability required to grow. This does not mean the emotional warmth disappears. Instead, it becomes more deliberate. Saturn encourages patience. It slows emotional momentum so that people can observe what is truly present within a connection. Under this influence, affection may appear through actions rather than dramatic expressions. Someone may demonstrate care by showing up consistently rather than speaking beautifully about their feelings. At times, this energy can also create emotional distance. Saturn naturally introduces a sense of seriousness. Some people may become quieter about their feelings while they evaluate what those feelings mean. Others may notice where expectations within a relationship feel heavier than they realized before. These moments of emotional realism can feel uncomfortable if we expect relationships to always feel effortless. But Saturn's role is not to restrict love. Its role is to strengthen what is genuine. When a connection is built on shared respect and effort, Saturn tends to stabilize it. The relationship becomes less dependent on emotional highs and more supported by reliability. However, if a connection has been sustained primarily through hope, projection, or avoidance of difficult conversations, Saturn may expose those weaknesses. This is why the day can feel reflective. People may notice where they have been investing emotional energy and ask whether the investment is mutual. They may also recognize the responsibilities that come with caring about someone deeply. At the same time, Mercury retrograde forming a supportive connection with Jupiter adds a philosophical dimension to the process. The mind becomes interested in meaning rather than just reaction. You may find yourself reviewing recent emotional experiences and asking larger questions about growth. What have these interactions been teaching you? What patterns are becoming visible? Jupiter encourages perspective. It reminds the mind that even challenging realizations contribute to long-term understanding. Together, these influences invite maturity in both thought and feeling. The heart learns to appreciate emotional honesty, while the mind begins to see how relationships evolve over time, rather than through isolated moments.
Now bring this energy down into everyday behavior, because today's influence may appear through subtle shifts in how people interact with one another. You might notice that emotional conversations feel more serious or reflective than usual. Someone may speak more cautiously about their feelings, or you might find yourself thinking more carefully before expressing your own. Instead of reacting immediately, there may be a natural pause where you consider what your words truly mean. This pause is part of Saturn's influence. It slows emotional expression just enough to allow reflection. In relationships, this can create moments where expectations become clearer. A conversation might move toward practical questions about effort, time, or responsibility. Even small interactions may reveal whether both people are equally invested in maintaining the connection. You may also notice that affection appears through actions rather than dramatic words. Someone might demonstrate care by being reliable, offering help, or simply showing up when they said they would. These gestures can feel quieter than grand declarations, but they often carry deeper meaning. At the same time, you might become more aware of emotional limits. If a situation has been demanding more energy than it gives back, that imbalance may become easier to recognize. Saturn tends to highlight where boundaries need strengthening. This awareness does not necessarily lead to conflict. Often, it simply creates a moment where you acknowledge your own emotional capacity. Another pattern today may involve reflection on recent events. Conversations or realizations from earlier in the week may return to your thoughts. With Mercury retrograde forming a supportive connection with Jupiter, the mind may naturally look for the larger lesson within those experiences. Instead of focusing only on what happened, you may begin asking what it revealed about your values, expectations, or emotional patterns. This kind of reflection can bring a sense of perspective. Situations that once felt confusing may begin to look more understandable when viewed within a broader context. Today does not demand dramatic decisions. It encourages observation and honesty. Notice where emotional effort feels balanced. Notice where it feels heavy. Notice how people respond when responsibility enters the conversation. Sometimes the most important information about a relationship appears not in moments of excitement, but in moments of steadiness. Now bring this influence into your own experience, sign by sign, not as prediction, but as awareness of how emotional maturity may be developing in your life. If you're an Aries, relationships may invite you to slow down and consider the long-term implications of your feelings. You may feel a desire for clarity about what a connection truly requires. Growth for you lies in balancing your natural enthusiasm with patience and responsibility. If you're a Taurus, deeper emotional patterns may become more visible. You might recognize how past experiences influence your expectations in relationships today. Growth involves allowing those insights to guide healthier emotional boundaries. If you're a Gemini, partnerships may reveal something important about shared effort. You may notice whether communication within a relationship supports mutual understanding or creates confusion. Growth lies in expressing your needs clearly rather than assuming they are understood. If you're a Cancer, daily interactions may highlight how emotional care is expressed through practical actions. Someone's reliability may matter more than their words. Growth now involves recognizing the value of steady support rather than focusing only on emotional intensity. If you're a Leo, creative or romantic dynamics may invite a more grounded perspective. Attraction may still feel strong, but you may also notice the responsibilities that accompany it. Growth lies in allowing excitement and realism to coexist. If you're a Virgo, family or personal life may bring attention to emotional responsibilities. You might feel the need to clarify expectations within close relationships. Growth involves addressing these dynamics calmly rather than carrying the weight silently. If you're a Libra, communication within relationships may become more thoughtful. Conversations may move toward practical understanding rather than emotional interpretation alone. Growth for you lies in welcoming honesty even when it introduces serious topics. If you're a Scorpio, questions about value and investment may arise. You may become more aware of how much emotional or practical effort you contribute to a relationship. Growth involves ensuring that the exchange feels balanced. If you're a Sagittarius, this influence may bring emotional maturity directly into your sense of identity. You may recognize how your desires are evolving and what kind of connection truly supports your growth. Growth lies in honoring that awareness without rushing to conclusions. If you're a Capricorn, internal reflection may become stronger today. You may quietly evaluate the emotional commitments you carry in your life. Growth involves allowing yourself to acknowledge both your responsibilities and your need for emotional support. And if you're an Aquarius, friendships and social connections may reveal deeper levels of trust or responsibility. You may notice who shows up consistently and who remains distant. Growth lies in recognizing the value of dependable connection. And if you're a Pisces, professional or public relationships may invite you to express your values more clearly. You may realize how emotional authenticity affects the way others understand your intentions. Growth involves communicating your perspective with both compassion and structure.
As we close March 8, notice how emotional energy may have slowed down compared to the days before it. Earlier in the week, relationships may have felt more fluid, more emotional, even more imaginative at times. Feelings moved quickly, insights appeared suddenly, conversations carried layers of meaning that were still unfolding. Today introduces a different rhythm. Instead of focusing only on how something feels, you may have noticed yourself asking deeper questions about what a connection actually requires. What effort does it ask for? What responsibility comes with it? And whether the investment you're making emotionally is supported by real consistency. These questions are not meant to diminish love or connection. They are meant to strengthen it. When excitement slows down and reality enters the picture, you begin to see which relationships are built on mutual effort and which ones were sustained mostly by hope or idealization. This process can feel serious at times, but it also brings a form of stability that emotional intensity alone cannot provide. You may have noticed moments today where someone demonstrated care through action rather than words. Reliability, patience, presence. These qualities often reveal themselves quietly, but they form the foundation of lasting connection. Tonight, it may help to reflect gently on what became clearer. Where did I see consistency today? Where did responsibility become visible in my relationships? And what did I learn about the kind of connection that truly supports me? Emotional maturity does not remove warmth or affection. Instead, it gives those feelings a structure strong enough to grow over time. When love meets reality, it does not lose its meaning. It becomes more capable of lasting.